In today's complex business environment, leaders need not only to be prepared for the worst, but also to build their resilience. At The Human Factor, Corporate Integrity Matters' Sonja Stirnimann invites top executives, board members, and industry experts to reflect and talk about the realities of corporate integrity, risk, and ethical leadership. As an international governance authority, independent director, and entrepreneur, she understands the challenges leaders face. Integrity and ethical leadership are not just principles. They build resilience, enhance reputation, and create strategic competitive advantage for organizations and for individuals.
Today, I'm honored to welcome my colleague Maya Bundt. She chairs the steering committee for the implementation of the national cyber strategy in Switzerland and supports a number of national and international initiatives in the space of cyber and digital risks. She also serves as chair of the cyber resilience chapter of the Swiss Risk Association in Switzerland. And she is the former cyber practice leader of Swiss Re, one of the global player of reinsurance. In short, Maya is a professional board member and cybersecurity enthusiast. And today, as promised, we are now digging deeper with this specific session covering the first global cyber board reporting in a mini-series of 3 episodes. We will talk about the following 3 parts: the research process, the results, and the framework. We will clearly highlight our human factor influencing the decisions. Ultimately, we, the board, C-level, and executives, have a massive influence on such analysis as well as on behavior within organizations and processes. Maya, great to have you here again. And as already said, we are now going to talk about the 3 parts, digging deeper into the research you did over the last few months and maybe even more years. What I saw when
I think by now it's about
it's about years. So we talk about the research process, we talk about the results, and we also get an insight about the framework and what was behind and what you and your team would like to achieve with that. So this episode is now going to talk about the research process, and I would like to give you the word because I have a lot of questions, but I'll let you start with the details you would like to share with us today.
Well, first of all, thank you, Sonja, so much for having me back. I'm super excited to be able to talk about that project that we did over the last year, basically. So the topic is cybersecurity board reporting. And that maybe on the face of it sounds rather dry, or people might even say boring. But I tell you, once you dig in it, it's far from it. So I don't know if we have, or you have listeners who sit on boards, they will know the process when you enter a board, right? You get into that new board, you have to get to know how the board works, who is there, who brings in what, etc. And you get all these reports, right? And it takes about, I would say, a good year until you know and understand really what is happening in the board, and you can really make your points, etc.
And especially because if I can interrupt you, I think it's sometimes also difficult to understand what kind of reports do we have.
Yeah.
And maybe they already have it, but you don't get it because no other board members asked for it.
Exactly.
That's also what I experienced, because I think often management does so many reports for themselves because they need it. But if it's not requested by the board that they could also have a look at it, they just don't know about it. And I think it's a great point that you take that up right now, because
and Sonja, there is another point. Even the reports that get to the board, not all the members see that usually, right? Because there are reports for the full board, and then there are reports that get into committees. If you sometimes, the committee reports will be shared with everybody, but I think more often than not, that is not the case. And so you might sit on a board and your colleagues might get reports, but you don't get them. And then, you might get different reports on similar topics, and it might be, it might be slightly confusing. So, and if we're talking cyber, it's such a kind of complex topic. And honestly, there are not that many board members who are really experts on that topic. And I would even go so far as to say, some board members feel slightly uncomfortable about that topic. And there are no standards for reporting.
You talked about how confusing it could be with all these kind of reports. I think it really depends on the organization, but I think it's also helpful to get an overview. What kind of reports do we have, and who needs to know what,
Exactly.
without asking for additional reports. I
Yeah.
rather like to reduce the amount of reports and often also the size of reports. But as you said, when it comes to cyber, it's very important that you also know who sits on the board and in the management team, who has an idea about it and who could ask the right questions.
Yeah. And that is basically the reason why we did the research, right? It's that we felt and we saw that often, reports get to the board, but they develop over time, right? Is a document that develops, and maybe some board members asked for additional information at some point, and then gets added. But it's not as if, very often you take a step back and look at the reporting and think about, is that really what the board members need, or the board members don't ask themselves that question. It is actually true for all or most topics, I would say, that are not the standard financial reporting ones. Right?
And if we could go back just one step, because you said we, that's the reason why we did. So could you explain to our audience who is we who did that? Because it was not only Maya Bundt, but you are the driver. I know that.
It's we is a small project team consisting of Chris Verdonk. He's a Belgian cybersecurity expert. Tommy Wiljoen is an Australian cybersecurity expert, and myself in Switzerland. And we set out to do this international study. And the aim of this study was really to enable a more meaningful and informed dialogue between boards and executives, what we call the handshake, the warm handshake. Right?
The warm handshake. Okay, that's a good one. Yeah.
Concrete objectives were to provide greater transparency about current practices for cybersecurity board reporting. So this is where we did the research. We wanted to identify leading approaches and good practices. And we wanted to build that framework that you already mentioned in the beginning. And we did that by collecting data first. So we did interviews, in-person interviews, about an hour each interview with board members in Belgium, Switzerland, and Australia. Some others, but mostly those three countries. We collected data that way. We also asked the board members if they could give us examples of recent reports, cybersecurity board reports that were sanitized, that were anonymized, so we could actually study real reports. And we got a number of reports, 37 in all, which was a great source of information for us as well. So we collected the data. Data collection was from, I would say, August or September of last year, of 2024, until January of this year, 2025. And then we spent another, few months analyzing the data and writing the report, which then it's so funny. We wanted we aimed for a 40 page report and
it's much more.
It became a 100-page report.
Because I have it in front of me. So for the audience, so we are going to link and put all the links into the show notes to the report, to the names you already mentioned. So they don't have to write it down, because I know they are maybe traveling or whatever. So everything is going to be included in also the I think the website you mentioned before.
Yeah,
so
it's
that they can also
www.cybersecurityboardreporting.com. It's very easy.
Okay, perfect. So, but we will really include that so they can take a look at it by themselves, and also maybe apply for the 100 pages with all the results and I think also the research you did before. So, but now I'm already interested in the results, but I would like to go back to the research part. So what was the biggest obstacle you saw when you had these interviews? Because I could also imagine that it's not that easy also for board members to clearly answer your questions.
Yeah. So, I mean, the one of the biggest obstacles or biggest challenges was to design a good questionnaire. And honestly, when looking back, I think we can, improve the questionnaire, but the questionnaire that we used is good. We got a lot of really important and valuable information out of it. So that's the first step, right? The second one is getting people to sit with you for an hour-long interview. And here I must say, or at least I can not say the same for my colleagues, because I didn't do their work. They did their work. But I often ask people directly if they would sit for an interview. And many of those people that I asked directly actually have some cybersecurity experience themselves. There's probably a slight bias for the specific people, right, that I was asking. But since we were asking for the full board, and they were able to tell us, about their board practices and what reports they got, I think it's a good and kind of representative people that we got. But the people that I talked to were actually very open and very eager to talk about it. And they were also very interested in the results. So I think this is maybe a slight surprise if you come from the outside. But actually, the topic itself, delving a little bit deeper into cybersecurity and what actual information the board get, so they can take informed decisions, right? So they can actually do their duty. I think that is of great interest actually to directors, and so far not much exists in that space, right? I think in general, board reporting, there is a lot of research and a lot of papers are about governance, but very little is actually written about the reports themselves, right? And I think especially in a topic that is so unruly and so broad and so complex as cybersecurity, is people were actually happy to discuss this, and some even, while we were doing the interview, said, "Oh, I've learned something. Oh, this is something that I should, ask in my board." So I think also the process was already helpful.
It was already a sensitization. And honestly, because you also asked me and we also had our discussion and interview. And for me, it was also important to contribute to your work, because we need to have these kind of results and we should have this kind of framework. And when we as board members are not participating to such kind of research and studies, I think we will never come to a point where we can also use that and also compare ourselves with the best in the market. I think it's super helpful, and that's also the reason why I think a lot of board members were happy to talk about the topic and also afterwards getting the results.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that, Sonja. And I think that is absolutely right. I usually also try to, whenever possible, sit for interviews or give answers to research if I can. And in any case, to all of your listeners, we might expand the research because
Okay, good.
it's been a real eye opener in many areas, and there is still so much to learn and so much to dig a little bit deeper that we might want to expand the research. So please, everybody who sits on the board and is listening here, a quick ad time here. Kind of reach out to us and be open to sit for questions and answers. That would be awesome. It helps in the end, as you say, Sonja. It helps us all, and this way we are also able to learn something for ourselves, but also for the organizations that we represent.
Absolutely. So, and if you're fine with that, I will also promote that a little bit more with our audience, but also with our former interview guests, because we have many people also sitting in the same roles as we have, but also some experts in the cyber environment who could maybe also support here. And I think it would be a great opportunity also to make our organizations a little bit better, to sensitize the topics we need to, and also spread the word.
Thank you. That is awesome. That is awesome.
Is there anything else we should need to know when it comes to the research part?
I think just the one thing that I think sticks out is with our research is we concentrated here on the board directors. So all our interviews were with board directors. So it's really their viewpoint that we captured, but there's always two sides to a conversation, right? And if we're talking about the handshake, there's always two hands that shake. Sometimes there might be more hands, but there is two sides to it. So I think that the report itself is interesting and actually vital to both executive management and security leaders, as well as to board members. But I think that is also one of the things that I would love to enhance on and embark on, is to have a little bit of a broader view on that exact same topic, by still interviewing, talking to more board members, but also maybe widening the space and talking to CISOs, to CIOs, to executive team members that actually deliver those reports to the board and thus get both sides of the handshake.
Because this would be my question right now, I would like to understand what they would need from us as boards. I have some kind of ideas what they would need, so that we need to be more trained, we need to ask the right questions. But it would be super interesting also to have more or less the same questions to the executive teams, to the CISOs, and then see where do we have the gap. So what do we see as board members? What do we think is important? Where do we stand? And having on the other side exactly the executive teams. This would be, I think, a great analysis for us as board members, also to understand how big is the gap we have right now. What is the combined understanding, and maybe we are also lacking some kind of needs on board levels, what executive teams would expect from us. So.
And Sonja, this is exactly the point why we developed the framework, which is the third part of our little podcast series here. The framework is there to give people a framework, how to and what to talk about between boards and executive teams. We even in the report we even have a little process drawn and who should be part of that conversation.
Okay. Yep.
So you can actually take that step back and look at what the board needs, what the management needs to provide from their point of view, so they can actually, both in terms of the board level governance piece, right? The things like, who should be presenting, where should cyber be a topic, in the full board or in a committee or in both? How often does it need to be, discussed, these things, but also the content of the reporting, right? And here we have that framework, and if you go through it, you can really have a deep conversation. It should facilitate the conversation about what do we need and how can we set up ourselves. So that would be then the third part.
So Maya,
we will talk about the results, I guess.
Maya, this was a perfect hook for the framework, but we would also like to talk about these results first. Now, I think everybody who is listening right now to the research part we record right now, I think they are now eager also to learn more about the framework and hopefully also about the results.
We have great results, I can tell you. It's a cliffhanger here.
Exactly. So we will really make sure that your episodes are following after each other, so people do not have to wait too long between the episodes. But I would like to finish here, and as promised, we will really put all the links and the names into the show notes. And awesome. Thank you very much for that start. I'm looking forward to the results, and let's talk soon.
Thank you so much, Sonja.
Thank you.
Let's talk soon.
This was another episode of our mini-series, The Human Factor Corporate Integrity Matters, today with Maya Bundt. Here we uncover the leadership strategies that define governance risk and resilience, guided by the principle corporate integrity is the foundation of trust, resilience, and long-term success. Thank you for listening. I'm Sonja Stirnimann, your host. Stay aware, act decisively, and lead with integrity. Take care and have a good time.